about this week. And I had one topic after another and another and another. And so I didn't make up my mind until this morning. So anything could happen here. For some reason, I thought about the first bit of the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. Well, I've had that experience this week. The Lord is our higher self, we know all that. And he, forget gender, it's everything, maketh me to lie down. Sometimes when we do things, we don't realise we're overdoing it. None of us can do what we did 10 years ago or even 20 years ago. So something happens to make us lie down by the still waters. We might get something wrong and find that there's nothing we can do about things, and so we just have to wait for things to move in divine order. It's a bit of a test sometimes. But divine order is always divine order. And so we had a hot day last week, and I didn't get used to it like I used to. I used to be running around and doing things, but not anymore. And I realised that's the stage of life I'm at. So am I going to adjust to that? No, it's a myth. So I carried on, didn't I? And, did a few lawns and things, came in, and it was such a nice day. I left the screen door open at night, and I've got to be careful because there's a couple of blue-tongued lizards like to lie on my step. So I made sure the screen door was shut and my window was open, and in the morning it was freezing. Of course, I had this particular voice I've got, but it was a bit then, and I could have made a fortune from it. So anyway, that was my thing. I couldn't do anything for the rest of the day. I felt guilty because I had a talk to prepare. And I remember Reverend Jack Bowmar, he was here. He's now in the church in Chicago. He's now Bishop Jack. And we were talking about meditation and talks and things. He said he used to write his out. So did I. I still do, but it's easier to go off and be inspired than it was then. And I remember he said to me, he said, I got so tired of writing out my meditations, I just decided to put it to the test. And it worked for him. And it's going to work for me. I had my day of rest, then I had to come to Melbourne, and I didn't do much here either. But I look back all the work I've done over the 20 years, some of the talks I've given, and I thought, no, well, I'll see how I go. And the talk is, on we go. But I've even updated that. It's now called a movement and a rest. Mark 6, verse 31, and he said unto them, Come ye yourselves apart into a desert place and rest a while. Well, we live in the dual world. It's a world of opposites, up, downs, cold, happy, war and peace, blessings and challenges. It's all part of our soul growth. And to me, these are ideal conditions for us to learn the fruits of the Spirit. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, faith, meekness, and moderation. Meekness doesn't necessarily mean being shy or backwards. It means being able to learn and be willing to learn. So I've asked myself why I'm here. We're all spiritual beings having a spiritual experience. You've heard that over and over. And Spirit has just one thing in to express more. And we are all individual expressions of it. It's amazing how Spirit wants to express itself. I remember, this in my time, I think it was in the 50s and 60s, one of our students, a girl student, discovered she was having a baby. And of course the town was horrified. And she left Melbourne and she didn't see her baby for many years before. But I just thought, well, Spirit doesn't care. Spirit is expressing. And this is what happened. And it turned out to be a wonderful relationship when they met up later. And Spirit will use whoever it can. We all have our time, and it's interesting to note that today, in Reflections of Truth, Reverend Rhonda Murray is having her last service as minister. He's handing it over to Julian, and but she'll be there to just be in the background and carry on. But you know, there comes a time when the buck stops with that one person, and after you've done it for a while, it's time to go back. But there's usually someone that's there that can take over, whether we. We learn to express more and more of Spirit by understanding the universal spiritual laws of the universe, which never change. Our life will reflect how well we live those roles. And I think I shocked a couple of people last time I spoke. I mentioned that you read a book or heard of Norman Vincent Peale, who wrote, what was it, The Power of Positive? Yes, we know that one, don't we? Most of it. Is that him too? That was Dale Carnegie? Good to see you've been doing some research. And anyway, we've got it down there. And he was the minister for Donald Trump. And he married Donald Trump and his first wife. And he knew their parents very well. I used to go along to his church in New York. And you can see how the power of positive thinking can get out of control unless it's in line with the universal spiritual laws. I told you, I think last time, my nephew wanted to know the history of New Thought in 2 seconds. So I started telling him about it. And he said, oh, it's just positive thinking. I said, well, yes and no. Because you can be positive about something that's not good for you. You don't realise till later when you need a movement and a rest to recover. So that was a little interesting bit of information. So anyway, the Sufi poet, we're getting back to, we're all connected. And isn't it amazing to think, Rumi wrote, our bones are made from the rocks of the earth. Our flesh is made from the grass, the vegetation of the earth, and our blood is made from the waters of the earth. If you become conscious of it. So, yeah, isn't it wonderful? That breath connects us. That breath, that holy breath connects us as a living spirit between the spirit and matter. Going through my notes, I noticed once upon a time I wrote a talk called Temples and Trees. In this world, we're surrounded by temples. Here is surrounded by trees, monstrous ones. And where I live, that has got huge cypress trees. They're quite scary. They're getting a bit out of control. But anyway, they're magical trees. I used to feel the energy of it. And I had to get two taken down. Everything in my front yard. I apologised to trees and who does for things like that and smudging. And it's all settled now, but it's changed the whole ecosystem of that front yard. I might say for the better, it gets sunlight. But if I didn't trim them and get them taken down, the power would have gone out in the town because it would have fallen right over the power. Could have been over 3 houses, it could have knocked over. And not necessarily the big trunk, but it's the branches that fall from height and underneath it that do the damage. Anyway, our body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. The trunk of the tree is our spinal column. The branches and leaves and flowers and fruit on the tree, we come into and out of form. So why do some leaves fall before others? And it's one of those things that nature is just such a wonderful teacher. Now, this is only a short talk today because we'll have to get on to the burning bowl, but this was said to me a few years ago, which I often refer to by Johann Wolfgang Goethe. To finish off with a movement and a rest, he wrote, "A person should hear a little music, read a little poetry, and see a fine picture every day of their life in order that the worldly cares may not obliterate the sense of beauty which God has implanted in us." So if we did that instead of getting onto Facebook, which I find can be very addictive, here we go, we just balance our life out. And finally, at 94, we all know this, Charles Fillmore said, "I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm, bring forth with a mighty faith to do the things done by me." Now at 94, that's amazing. And maybe we need to take it easy sometimes. Let us rest and listen for that inner voice which guides us on the way. Because Ecclesiastes says, "To everything there is a purpose for everything under heaven."